church, so goes the nation.
Nobody's convicted of anything anymore.
And now, here's Last Call with your host, B.J. Edwards.
Sometimes you got to go uninvited. Sometimes you got to speak when you don't have the floor. Sometimes you got to move when everybody else says you should stay. No way, no, not today. Hey, good morning, brothers and sisters in Christ and fellow Earth travelers. I'm back, along with Mr. Anderson in honor of Mama Jeannie. You're listening to your last call on WTVOradio.com, and I believe it's WNFFradio.com as well, right, Mr. Anderson?
That is correct. That's our new radio station. That's ours. We bought it.
Yeah. As goes the family, so goes the church. As goes the family, so goes the business. As goes the family, so goes the news media and entertainment. As goes the family, so goes education. And as goes the family, so goes the nation. Got a great show for you today. This is going to be a classic. So it really is going to be a classic.
I'm glad you're back.
Yeah. Hey. First of all, I want to thank Coach Dave Daubenmire and his crew. Houston got hit by Harvey. Hollywood got hit by Harvey too, but Houston got hit by Harvey pretty hard. And they're still trying to recover. And Coach with the Salt and Light Brigade have been down there every week. We've got hearty souls coming from all over the United States. I want to thank you for your support. And by the way, if you want to continue that support, if you want to go down there and visit with them, CoachDaveLive.com. CoachDaveLive.com. Help them out. The people in Texas really appreciate you. They really do. There's some awful good things going down there. Big Rich and Tim and Chad and Pastor Dale and the rest of the crew. Congratulations, fellas. Keep up the good work. It's really encouraging. I love all of you.
And send your donations. I think it's averaging about $2,000 in material per house that they're rehabbing.
Right.
Make them livable again.
Yep.
Cut out that mold, put in the new drywall. And that's free labor putting that in.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
If you paid to have that done, it'd probably be about $10,000, $15,000.
Yeah. Mr. Anderson, I read an article the other day. It was by Gary, I think, Hare. That detailed at least 78 laws that Barack Obama has broke as president, when he was president. For example, he illegally armed Mexican drug cartels and ISIS militants. He used executive action to restrict the Second Amendment. He secretly obtained phone records from Associated Press journalists. And there are many legal acts that he committed. Again, 78 of them that we know of. But one in particular this week may have backfired on the former president, who had the IRS illegally target conservative Tea Party types. I know many of you liberal listeners are going, nah, that's just talk. That's just talk. That didn't really happen. Speculation, innuendos. Well, not so fast there, liberal lips. Let's talk about targeting of Tea Party groups by the IRS. I have in my formerly Jack Daniels stained hands a press release from Tom Zawakatowski of the Portage County Tea Party. Headline, IRS settles with Portage County, Ohio Tea Party and 35 other groups in Ohio as they admitted to wrongdoing and issues an apologies. Say what? The IRS issued an apology? You got to be kidding me.
Absolutely.
That's right, though. This past Thursday, the IRS, Internal Revenue Service, and the American Center for Law and Justice, ACLJ, announced that they had agreed to settle a lawsuit brought by the Portage County Tea Party and 35 other Tea Party and conservative groups in Ohio for targeting them during the Obama administration. Oh. In the settlement, the IRS acknowledged these people should be put in jail. IRS auditors, do you need my home address? Huh? You're going to be visiting me soon? Should be put in jail for using government money, for using government influence to affect elections.
Actually, it's our money, not the government's.
That's true.
They act like it's theirs.
Yep. 35 Tea Party groups. In the settlement, the IRS acknowledges that its treatment of the Tea Party groups was wrong. No kidding. The apology also listed details as to how it has installed procedures to assure that such targeting never happens to any other Americans ever again. You mean those procedures weren't in place to begin with? Come on. And they assured the Tea Party groups that they would not be subject to any further scrutiny by the IRS, and expressed its sincere apology for the way it had treated the groups. I know Tom Ziolkowski. I know him very well. And when he first started this suit, now you know how positive I am about things, right? I said, this is going to be very interesting because I know Tom, and Tom latches onto something and he just doesn't give up. And I appreciate him staying with this. It took quite a while to get this done, by the way. But the fact that he stuck with this, did I think that they were going to win over the IRS? No, I did not. But I knew Tom was going to make it interesting. Well, he has, and by the way, they do have another suit going, and that may be very interesting as well, given the IRS's acknowledgement. Paragraph 40 of the settlement states the IRS admits that its treatment of plaintiffs during the tax-exempt determination process included screening their applicants based on their names or policies. Subjecting these applicants to heightened scrutiny and inordinate delays, and demanding of some plaintiffs information that was unnecessary to the agency's determination of their tax-exempt status. That's wrong, folks. And they admitted it. For such treatment, the IRS expresses its sincere apology. Tom Ziolkowski, executive director of the Portage County Tea Party, said, "It's been a long, hard fight for justice. And I and thousands of members of the Portage County Tea Party, that's in Ohio, both past and present, are very gratified by the settlement agreed today with the Internal Revenue Service. We accomplished our goals of exposing the tyranny of the government under the Obama administration, doing something to stop it, and making sure it doesn't happen again." Tom, we agree, brother. When you don't show up, you can't win. And you did show up. Not many people can take on any government agency, let alone the IRS, and win. We thank the ACLJ for the tremendous multi-year legal effort representing us in court. We thank Congressman Jim Jordan, he's from Ohio, Darrell Issa, Trey Gowdy, Senator Ted Cruz, and others for stopping the attacks by the IRS after we had made them aware of the targeting. I can't wait till Roy Moore gets in Washington, D.C. Oh, boy.
It'll be interesting.
The bottom line is that, but I digress. With the settlement, no one can deny that the IRS targeted American citizens because of their political beliefs, and that it was wrong to do so. A principal was responsible for the acts of his agents, folks. The IRS reports to who? They admitted that as much more in the settlement, just as Lois Lerner admitted it back in 2012. The IRS reports to who? Last call listeners, allow me to give you a little bit of history on this. The process started back in 2010, 7 years ago, when the Ohio Tea Party first applied for their 501c4 tax-exempt organization status. The targeting by the IRS started in 2011, right after the Tea Party had stunned the Democrats by helping to elect 64 Republicans to take back the U.S. House in 2010. The IRS targeted continued right through the 2000 election and cost most Tea Party organizations both membership and donations, as people were afraid the IRS would come after them personally, simply for being a member of the party. Other groups across the nation suffered from the same damages. The goal of the Obama administration was to use the IRS to shut down the Tea Party movement to ensure President Obama's re-election in 2012. Ziolkowski of the Portage County Tea Party said that it was wrong that people like Lois Lerner, Holly Paz, and IRS Commissioner John Koskinen could not even be fired for their actions under the laws of the time. in our opinion, should have faced criminal charges for what they did to thousands of American citizens who were just using the Constitution-guaranteed rights of freedom of speech and freedom of assembly. You know, there's a lot of this imposition on freedom of speech going around. Mr. Anderson and I can attest to that, right, sir?
Yes, sir.
Boy. Since the targeting of the IRS by Congress has actually passed a law which was written by Ohio Congressman Jim Renacci that now allows the IRS to fire an employee that inappropriately takes action against an American taxpayer. This just infuriates me. We have to pass a law so somebody that's working for the government does something illegal can actually be prosecuted for it. Think about the insanity of that. Wow. This is just, I mean, the list goes on. He's also, by the way, Tom Zwickowski is still active in a suit that is represented the Ohio Liberty Coalition, which I was president during the time of the targeting. This suit has not been settled in Cincinnati. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens. And of course, by the way, Mr. Anderson, do you feel better that all the information has been released from the Kennedy assassination? Do you feel a lot better now, a lot more comfortable, a lot more sure of what's going on?
Well, I don't know what's going on.
You don't know what's going on. They released the information.
Well, I knew that, and I read conflicting stories that some of it was held back.
Yep. What is it? Retracted? Redacted?
That the CIA or somebody convinced Trump to hold some of the documents back.
Mm-hmm.
So then I'm wondering, well, what are they still trying to hide?
Is this a case, though, where you're going to be darned if you do and darned if you don't? If they released all the information, I'm sure people would read more into it. Yes, read more into it than there is actually there. There may be some new interesting information. But if the information that comes out from the government doesn't prove that there was a conspiracy, those folks out there that are addicted to conspiracy theories are not going to believe it to start with.
They're still going to look.
And they're still going to look. That's right. Think about that. And think about a nation that finds itself in that position. I can remember where I was when the assassination happened, and I can remember all the hoopla about what was going on and all the questions that were going on. And it affected me as a child. And it affected my ability to trust government. And you know what else that affected people's ability to do? Is to trust authority. And where's that authority? In the family, right? In the family. You got to wonder the dynamics of what was going on in the families during that time period. I think it'd be really interesting when they finally do get all the redacted. I think it's redacted. All the unredacted information, and see what kind of reaction they're going to have to it. Like what's happening in Las Vegas, which is just, I mean, I don't want to talk about that because there's so many rabbit holes that we could go down about that as well. I'm trying to be patient about it, but at the same time try to apply a little pressure. I may apply a little pressure to my congressmen, my senators. They all know me by now, by the way. By the way, do your senators and congressmen know you? Should they know you? If they don't know you, then what do they have to worry about? You're either not voting, or you're going to vote for them because they're incumbents. And because they're incumbents and have a pulse, they're going to get reelected. With all due respect to draining the swamp, which we're going to talk about a little bit about this morning, draining the swamp. When we come back from break, I'm going to talk about what everybody else is talking about. We're going to show a little different angle from it. And we're going to hear from Larry Nichols as well with regards to that. B.J. Edwards, along with Mr. Anderson, your last call. WNFFradio.com.
Correct. Got it.
I'm trying to get that down, Mr. Anderson.
Me too.
And thanks for helping out last week.
faith, discussion, and so much more. Last Call with BJ Edwards on WTVOradio.com.
BJ Edwards along with Mr. Anderson, your last call. Stay tuned, folks. We're going to be hearing some comments from Larry Nichols, and we're also going to be listening to Tucker Carlson. I love Tucker Carlson, at least what he's trying to do. I think he tries to be a little too balanced sometimes, and he's got his lunch eaten the other day by a California congressman. We're going to play a little bit of that, but I want to talk to you about the what I would call the witch hunt, or the Hillary Clinton hunt. 6 1 half dozen the other, right? After years of lies, crooked Hillary and the DNC have been exposed, paying a company to use the foreign agent to take down President Trump. And the company they use has ties to Russia. The script has been flipped on the Russian investigation, and now crooked Hillary and the DNC have a lot of explaining to do. Sean Hannity, oh my goodness. And yeah, Tucker Carlson. They broadcast continuously about what's going on. Even our good friend and voluntary contributor, Mike Huckabee, seems to have fallen into the trap as well. Yesterday he wrote that Hillary Clinton can try to blithely dismiss all the recent revelation about her self-enriching ties to the Russian interest as baloney. But if that baloney has a first name, it S-T-I-N-K-S, stinks.
It looks like the bologna in my refrigerator.
S-T-I-N-K-S. Appropriately, I haven't eaten over your house for a while, Mr. Anderson. I've been feeling real well. Appropriately for Halloween season, the rotting perfidy is rising from where it is long buried to stalk her again. It might not be so easy to dismiss considering these latest developments. The nonprofit Campaign Legal Center has already found a formal complaint with the Federal Elections Commission, accusing her campaign and the DNC of violating federal election laws. Ooh. They were legally required to accurately disclose the purpose and recipients of the campaign-related expenditures, including opposition research. Key 2 words, opposition research. Going to hear a lot of that from the progressives, from the liberals. But they allegedly paid over $12 million to a law firm that used much of that money to pay for creating the Trump dossier. It's a special sounding. Mrs. BJ asked me, what does dossier mean? And I said, it's white paper with typing on it, something like this. I'm reading from a dossier. Oh, my goodness. They were legally required to accurately disclose the purpose and recipients of all campaign-related expenditures. They not only did not disclose it, they denied it for years. Oops. Full of sound and fury and signifying nothing. Mr. Anderson, can you play that Tucker Carlson tape for us? I want you to listen to this because Tucker Carlson, this is what you're going to hear from progressives with regards to the defense of what's happening with the Russiagate that we really have now that involves the Democratic Party, who had more involvement with Russians.
Literally paid money for
Listen to
Russian
this.
intelligence, as well as proof that the top Democratic
Tucker's interviewing
firm
a
in Washington
congressman from
was
Washington.
getting rich by advancing Russian interests. Collusion? If that's not collusion, what is collusion? We put a lot of calls out today, and very few Democratic lawmakers were interested in talking about this at all. The rare exception was Brad Sherman of California, the honorable exception, and he joins us tonight. Congressman, thanks a lot for coming on.
Thank you. I'm here to talk about the tax bill.
Now stop it right there, Mr. Anderson.
Well, unfortunately,
Can you stop that?
this is a
Can you stop that?
job-killing, deficit-exploding tax bill, which is the real story, the real voting.
Okay. Do you understand what's just happened here? Tucker Carlson is asking him about the Democratic Party, Hillary Clinton, and with regard to Russiagate. And what is the first thing that the congressman does? He was called there to talk about Russiagate. He was told that he was going to be talking about Russiagate. And what is the first thing that he does? He obfuscates. It's like a magician. Look over here in my left hand. I don't want you to look to see what I have in my right hand. Again, this is a congressman from California.
I tricked you.
Yeah. Okay, Mr. Anderson, continue the tape.
Congress.
Let me just cut you off.
I know you can't defend it.
Before you go, we don't have a tax bill. We have no idea what the details are.
Now he's talking about the tax bill.
Trump proposed 12-page document.
Have literally nothing.
We have a 12-page document, which is pretty long.
And then it'll get to the Senate, and it will become something completely different. So I would love to debate that because I think it's really interesting, and we may not even disagree on parts of it. But I want to ask you about the story that we spent the last year talking about.
You can't defend the Trump tax proposal.
Stop the tape. Stop the tape, Mr. Anderson. Do you understand what's happening again? Now we're changing the subject again to the tax proposal. So the congressman now has two left hands, keeping you from looking in the right hand. Okay? And he's interrupting Tucker, and he's not letting Tucker follow through with the question. Go ahead, Mr. Anderson.
This is clever, and I will have you on any day to talk about an actual tax bill.
No, you won't. I've been trying to get on your show to talk about economics again and again, and you only have me on to talk about nonsense.
Spare me.
Nonsense. And then,
really, the nonsense that the Democratic Party has hijacked the workings of Washington for the last year over this Trump story, or the Russia story, and for you to say
is you've got no defense for Trump's impeachment.
Okay, stop the tape. Stop the tape. We now have another left hand. This time it's impeachment. Impeachment of Trump. Do you understand what's happening here? There's a little bit of truth and a little bit of, yeah, maybe. You're saying, well, yeah, maybe we ought to look into this. As long as you're back on your heels, you're never going to be able to throw that punch with any kind of power at all. And that's exactly what, this is smart. This is smart. But Tucker Carlson, like I said, is getting his lunch eaten. Go ahead, Mr. Anderson, please.
Crimes and misdemeanors, and your only defense is, well, Hillary did too.
Okay.
You can't impeach a private citizen and say that's a reason not to impeach a president who's guilty of...
Wait a minute. Hold on, Mr. Anderson. What, impeach? Now we're talking about impeachment? Where did that come from? What does that have to do with the conversation here? We're talking about Russian and the DNC. We're trying to talk about Russian and the DNC, but we're not getting very far with it. Smart. Good. Good magicians. Go ahead, Mr. Anderson. Thank you.
I think you've jumped off the rails a little bit. Let me ask you some factual questions and see how you do with those. You can put the bumper stickers away. What do you make of the fact that the Podesta group, with whom I know you're personally familiar, was taking money from Russian interests to advance those interests in Washington?
I'd like to take a look at it, but it's irrelevant to whether we should impeach Donald Trump. He is guilty of obstruction of justice.
But you're not even going to engage on that question?
The answer is no, Tucker. The answer is no, Tucker.
From whom I assume you take money, gave money to the people who wrote the Trump dossier, whose information came from Kremlin-connected sources. Does that bother you? That they used Russian intelligence in the course of this?
Was funded first and foremost by Trump's Republican opponents.
Okay, stop the tape. Stop the tape. Do you understand what's happening here now? It's no longer. We're going to give possession of this issue to the Republican Party because they started it. I don't. How many hands is this now? 5 or 6, Mr. Anderson? Left hands. I don't know. I don't know.
It's getting kind of heavy on one side.
But do you understand? This is beautiful. I mean, this is beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. Again, go ahead, Mr. Anderson.
Correct.
In that dossier,
names we don't know.
Correct. There is nothing in that dossier that appears to be stolen information. What we have here...
Well, first of all, you don't know that.
No, stop the tape. Stop the tape. Now, where does stolen information come from? Do you understand what's happening here? You can go ahead and get that call, Mr. Anderson. Continue the tape. This is a thing of beauty, what this congressman is doing. Caller, hang in there with us. We'll be with you in just a second.
Hey, look, I don't know whether there are Martians or landing on the planet.
Of that, but we know for a fact
Martians on the planet
that information, some of it came from sources around Vladimir Putin.
This is a document that had no effect until
that's your excuse. So I'm just a simple question. Look,
I don't need an excuse because whether we impeach the character of a private citizen is an irrelevancy. Whether we impeach a president who's guilty of obstruction of justice.
Wait, but I'm talking, hold on, slow down.
Okay, this had no effect on the election.
The presidential election, well, you don't know if it had an effect on the election or not.
How can you affect an election by a document that's released 3 months after the election?
Because the information,
the
document was
good.
run in BuzzFeed.
This guy
the
is good.
information
We got a caller, Mr. Anderson?
And what?
Okay,
what,
go ahead and stop the tape. Go ahead and stop the tape. First of all, do any of you remember what the original question was? No. And you remember pieces and bits of things. I mean, I'm telling you what, this is art. This is a thing of beauty. Caller, good morning to you. First name, please. Can you hear me, caller? I'm catching voices in the background.
Yeah.
Caller, can you hear me?
Hello?
Caller, can you hear us? You got a mic we need to open up or anything? I can hear them talking. Caller, can you hear us?
Banging something around.
Yeah. Anyway, what's happening here is really a thing of beauty, and it's what you're going to have to get used to. You're going to have to stand your ground. I wish Tucker Carlson would have done a better job of standing his ground. I think he ought to put a mute switch on folks like these senators and representatives that are going to obfuscate and say, I'll put you back on, but we're going to talk about the subject that we're going to talk about. Otherwise, you're not going to be on. That's just incredible. Caller, I don't know whether you can hear us or not. We can hear you.
We'll hear a voice, but we'll hear background noise.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to break off the call.
Okay, go ahead. Appreciate that. Caller, call back if you would. We can't hear you. So, how can you possibly have a sane conversation with people that don't have your best interest at heart and will do anything and say anything to protect their cause, will not be objective about it? Do you think this wasn't practiced? That this congressman didn't know what he was going to talk about? Oh. Matter of fact, he should have Tucker Carlson's show because he knew what he was going to talk about, and Tucker didn't.
Well, I think he probably was deceptive to get on the show in the first place because Tucker said that they had called and contacted several, and they wanted to talk about this topic. He jumped right in to say, no, I'm not going to talk about this. And I think the interesting thing is when we hear Larry Nichols talk about this, this is the very thing that they're using to carry out their agenda.
Yep. And we're gonna take a break here in about a minute, and when we come back, we're going to have Larry Nichols, and we're going to hear a little bit of a conversation. Larry is the gentleman who created the monster hillbilly, which is a Frankenstein that has been haunting this nation
no use.
for years.
Sorry.
For years. Just keep that in mind. And Larry was in Arkansas. He helped with Bill to get the governorship. And he worked with some very difficult people, including Hillary Clinton. Really. To get Bill elected, and advised him, was put in some very curious situations, was Larry. And Larry knows, actually he taught the Clintons everything they know, to be honest with you. And he's a changed man and is now no longer that liberal, aggressive, take no survivors individual. And he's going to talk about Bill and Hillary Clinton and what you can expect from them. And all this, and I don't know whether Larry would totally agree with me, but I'm thinking that Bill and Hillary Clinton aren't gone anywhere. And the reason I believe that, number one, is they're still in the United States. So they don't think anything's going to happen. We'll see. And I hope Sean's right. But Rush Limbaugh said nothing's going to come of this, and I agree with Rush Limbaugh.
I do too.
Nothing. B.J. Edwards along with Mr. Anderson, your last call. WNFFradio.com, as well as WTVOradio.com. You can catch us on the phone, 6 If you want to listen to us, 605-475-0017. If you want to call in, that's a different number. 614-423-4220. Caller, I don't know what happened to you. We could not hear you, or maybe you couldn't hear us. But please call back if you would. When we come back to the break, Larry Nichols on Bill and Hillary Clinton. Very, very revealing.
Thank you for tuning in to another edition of Last Call with B.J. Edwards.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. If I get somebody like that on my show, and we're going to go into the left exposition, it's going to be a very short call on their part.
We can do that.
Stick on subject, yes, and they can do it there. Again, I like Tucker. I think he's a great man. I think he tries to be too good of a man sometimes, and he needs to rough up a few people to get some points across. I'm going to talk about draining the swamp, but before I do that, Mr. Anderson, do you have that Larry Nichols?
Yeah, give me a
I got you.
seconds here to.
Again, I want to remind you that Larry is the gentleman that created the monster we know as Hillbilly, Slick Willie and Hillary. And they learned well. And they know how to not take prisoners. They know how to dot the I's, cross the T's, and they know where to put the duct tape and who to put it on. And duct tape would be a kind, well, I can't go there because that somebody may misunderstand. No, somebody may understand what I'm trying to say, not misunderstand. So I would not want to be on the short end of Bill and Hillbilly. It's just not advisable. But when they get into positions, they secure their positions, and that could mean firing everybody around them, bringing in their own soldiers. And by the way, that's why we have what we have in Washington, D.C., because they're following Bill and Hillary's scenario, and they're getting rid of the good guys and putting in the bad guys.
Mueller, Rubenstein, they were all in it.
This is Larry.
So therefore they couldn't investigate it because it was them.
I'll go back this up a little
bit. And I told you yesterday,
all right.
I think I remember telling you yesterday.
Huh?
If
you can.
Did some, you had $1 a quarter or $5, $20.
We're trying to get to the point on the tape where Larry's talking about Bill and Hillary.
A bit nerve-wracking to do with Uranium Gate, I guess you'd call it.
Uranium Gate.
You know, for months, I have been saying, I've been making a correlation, and you can go back and listen to past programs. I kept pointing out over and over and over again on the Iranian-Russian deal. Mueller, Rubenstein, they were all in it. So therefore they couldn't investigate it because it was them. And I told you yesterday, I think I remember telling you yesterday, that they didn't bother to cover their tracks because they had no belief at all Hillary would win. You see, the key to the Clintons' criminality, I know because I was there, the key to their criminal talents, I guess you'd say, it's a funny word, it all hinges on them having absolute power. And you see, if you control the FBI, the head of the FBI, and quite a few ranks down from that, if you control that, then you're never investigated. If you control the federal prosecutors, as Bill Clinton did, well, actually it was Hillary, the first thing he did when he became president is he fired 111 federal prosecutors so that they could appoint the ones that were loyal to them. And then when you take the federal judges and you appoint them, the system says to the Clintons, you can't touch me. And how many of you that have followed me for years have heard me say this slogan, who are you going to call? Remember that? You're seeing it now. Who are you going to call? Well,
stop the tape for a second, would you?
Thanks to persistence.
What Larry's saying, and the sound quality doesn't sound that good for some reason, Mr. Anderson, I don't know what's going on, but what Larry is saying, again, Larry was with Bill and Hillary in Arkansas when they were growing up in the political system. And what Bill and Hillary do is they just, everybody that's around them, if they're not Bill and Hillary folks, goes bye-bye. And they have insulation. So if they do something wrong, the Justice Department is theirs. What do they have to worry about? Seriously, what do they have to worry about? And Larry was talking about the investigation on Uranium Gate or Russia Gate, however you want to call that. And he talked about some pretty high-level people that are involved in this. And it's really, what he's really saying is that they're not going to investigate themselves. They're not going to investigate themselves. So when he says, who are you going to call? Who are you going to call? Because all the people that you want to inflict justice in this nation are not going to do it because they would have to self-implode. It's just not going to happen. Let's go ahead with the tape with Larry if you can, Mr. Anderson.
Okay. Well, part of the sound quality problem is Larry's voice. He's a very sick man, and he really struggles just to get a word out.
Yeah, he was.
Thanks to not giving up. Now I hear people like Kennedy, Limbaugh, others. I mean, albeit they're late to the party, but they're coming to the party, and that's what's important. This case having to do with Hillary, Mueller, Rubenstein, Comey, the dossier, all of it having to do with uranium. Folks, that's criminal. That's criminal activities. That's not just political stunts. That's criminal activities. And now that President Trump is at the helm, the old saying applies. There's a new sheriff in town. And the Clintons and this cabal of criminals, they're lost. They don't know what to do. They're not used to this. They're not used to being able or having to be looked at. They're not used to that. They're used to being able to do anything they want to do and then being in a position to cover it up. And by the way, they also control the media, so there was nothing that would ever drive the public to want something investigated that they didn't want investigated that they did. It's changing now. And as much as we're in a new world fighting to save our way of life, and it's an awkward position for most of us, the Clintons are in the same rude awakening. They're in a world where they're not untouchable. They're using everything they have, and remember, they still have a lot of people planted all the way down the chain. So even though you might replace the Attorney General with Jeff Sessions, who I believe, and I've known for nearly 25 years, I know him to be a fair man. I know he's got that potential. At the same time, I do also understand he was a politician. So he has that potential as well. But I think.
You're listening to Larry Nichols, and he's giving us the rundown on the Clintons and all the other all the other helpers that they have in what they're doing. So I'm going to let Larry talk some more, but Larry would have been on the program today, but Larry has a very serious illness, and he He couldn't make it on because of that. So he offered to let us use a recent tape that he put out with regards to the Clintons. Hopefully we'll get him on the program soon to talk a little bit more about this. But again, we have to appreciate his health issues, and we really wanted him on live. But this is just as good. Larry's talking about what is going on and what the Clintons are doing. He seems to be optimistic. He seems to think that there's things that Trump can do. But I think Trump is still surrounded by all those helpers that were left from the last president, as also with the Clintons. There's a lot of deep state folks buried in the government, in the FBI, in the intelligence communities. And that's what's causing us a lot of the problems. I don't know how you get rid of them. And you've got congressmen, we're going to talk a little bit about draining the swamp, congressmen that aren't going to do anything. They don't like this outsider. So it's going to take a lot of prayer. I think it's going to take some more spiritual intervention to really, really nail this thing down. Good, Mr. Anderson, if you would continue with Larry. Again, Larry Nichols.
Now with this new wave of us and people like us, he will have the courage to do what must be done. The question came up to me, what will happen to Hillary through this investigation? Let's just pipe dream a little bit. Let's say that it does come out, and the truth outs, and Hillary and Mueller and Rubenstein and Comey, Loretta Lynch, Barack Obama, all of them were in on it. Now what happens then?
Great question.
The question to me was, do I believe Hillary will be put behind bars? My answer is going to disappoint all of you. It disappoints me, but I doubt it. I just doubt it.
And I agree.
You ask me why. Well, may I explain? Just like the information that I hold that we can use to force Republicans in the House of Representatives to not impeach Trump, that evidence, that information, Hillary has that and more. And I've seen them do it before. They will go into what's called a total war mode. They did it when I was fighting Bill Clinton.
Scorched earth.
When the Monica Lewinsky matter, when I brought it out. Time and time again, people that should have been responsive and wanted to do, would have done something, they all told me that Hillary and her group said, you get us, fine, we'll take you down with us. And there it is, folks. There's your answer. The Clintons, if they go, they have the ability to put down a whole bunch of people with them. If they go down, or it looks like they're going down, then all they've got to do is turn state's evidence on over half of Washington, D.C.
Yeah, at least. You know, you're seeing a lot of congressmen retiring these years.
Are in trouble. So to stay out of trouble, I don't see them pushing Hillary to the point of prosecution. I don't.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
Is that right? No.
Thank you. There you have it from the horse's mouth. The man that knows the Clintons better than anybody else knows the Clintons. He doesn't think they're going to go anywhere. Please, I want justice to be done. Don't get me wrong.
The interesting thing on this, as he goes on, just to bring this up, because it came up with Tucker and the congressman, that Larry's saying that impeachment is the weapon that the left is going to use.
Their joker.
That's the card. That's the distraction that they're going to use to get the heat off of Hillary, is press this impeachment thing. And, there you go. Smoke in the mirror then.
One of the things we have to do to get things done is drain the swamp. So how do we drain the swamp? When we come back for break, we're going to talk a little bit about draining the swamp.
Oh, you want to take another break?
And what it means. Yeah, I do. I do.
Is it time for one?
Yes.
All right.
Again, we're going to talk about draining the swamp. Can that be done?
Whoop. That came on loud.
I'm back, and Mr. Anderson is back in his proper seat.
Still messing up. I can't do it right
now. It's okay. It's okay. I love you for it. Love you for it.
Nice working with a professional, though.
Last call with B.J. Edwards.
Thank you, I think.
Real talk about real life on WTVOradio.com.
This is real life.
Yep. Yep.
What's going on?
Remember.
Doesn't seem real.
Yeah.
And yes, you are a professional.
Thank you. I'm looking for that check. That means you're paid because you're a professional. This is BJ, and this is my world. So what about draining the swamp? First of all, it cannot be done by traditional or conventional means. What do you mean by that?
Can't pull a plug.
Think about the Republican and Democratic parties. Actually, we have to pull the plug. Republican and Democratic parties. We're going to have to work outside the box. And to be honest with you, I'm not too sure how that works. My friends like to remind me of Donald Trump's success, which is in and of itself a complete enigma. Some say that it was answer to prayer that got him where he is at. And that begs the question, how come he has been so unsuccessful so far in what he is trying to accomplish? Look, I hear it out there. I hear, oh, he's done this and he's done that. What permanent things? I mean, executive orders are temporary and can be overturned, as you've seen, by just getting another president in office or having the one that's in office now impeached. Or are we back to the George Bush days of where prayer and the Christian right got George Bush elected, but then the church members scurried back to their caves and you could hear them singing Kumbaya and getting in touch with their God feelings? Others say the Trump election was a cosmic accident. The stars were aligned in just the right position and whammo, Sir Donald's in office. Still others claim that he is either establishment or worse than that. Never Trumpers. As is my wont, I had another communication with my deep state senator this week. One of my deep state senators, they're both deep state. And it was a follow-up to a previous message that I sent him on gun control. My deep state senator proudly informed me that he supports the ATF re-examining the approval of bump stocks. That's great. That's great. After almost 60 people are killed, now you're going to look at them? He as well continues to support efforts to genuinely reduce crime and make our society safer for all citizens. That's encouraging. He states that he has voted to increase prosecutions of those who knowingly bypass current laws to get weapons in the hands of violent criminals, treating symptoms again. Supported legislations that would have addressed a current gap in the background check system by strengthening state reporting of individuals who courts have found to be mentally ill, again, after the fact. And by the way, and as an aside, it won't be long before Christians are officially declared to be mentally ill. Just saying. But I digress. Back to my congressman, who does state that until we get at the root causes of violence, no law, no ban, and no background check will completely ensure the safety and security of our communities. Amen, brother. I agree with you there. His solution is to conduct studies that look at glorification of gun violence in popular culture, as well as risk factors that lead to mass shootings, whatever that means. Finally, he states that he has supported efforts to get at the underlying problems of a culture of violence prevalent in our society by voting to authorize a study to look at the glorification of gun violence in popular culture. Mr. Anderson, when you were growing up, do you remember the Wild Wild West and Bang Bang Shoot 'em Up, Cowboys and Indians?
Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Have gun, will
yeah,
travel.
Yeah. Anyway, the violence in popular culture, as well as the risk factors that lead to mass shootings. To which I responded to my deep state senator that this is all well and good, but my guess is that if you were to conduct a study that examined the family life of these individuals doing the shooting, you might find a missing link, suggesting as well to him that if he was looking for a quick and inexpensive study, that he might consider going to a local prison and interview a few of the inmates and ask them about their family life. I then, of course, suggested that as goes the family, so goes the nation. Encourage in closing to please let me know what he finds from his studies.
I think you put him on a good direction.
You think?
I do. Go study that.
And by the way, things have gotten progressively worse during the years, studies notwithstanding, and government intervention notwithstanding, and gun laws notwithstanding. What's the key? And we're going to talk about the key in the second hour of the program, and I want you to stay tuned because it's going to be very informative, and it's going to make you scratch your head and think about a few things that have been happening. I haven't talked about the NFL, about the flag and taking the knee.
And all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm. And there's always a temptation to talk about the flag situation. But instead, I found a good reason to take a knee at football games. Kayla Moore. You know who Kayla Moore is, don't you? You know who Judge Roy Moore is? He's married. And his wife's name is Kayla. Has suggested that schools ignore complaints about prayer. Taking a knee at a ball game? The Foundation for Moral Law, the Montgomery-based legal foundation founded by current U.S. Senate candidate Roy Moore, has suggested Trussville, Alabama, and other schools ignore complaints about school prayer. Moore's wife, Kayla, president of this foundation, sounded a statement in which she urged Alabama school districts to resist the demands of the Freedom of Religion Foundation and others who are trying to drive prayer out of athletic events. On October 23, 2017, the Wisconsin-based Freedom from Religions Foundation sent a letter to the Trussville City Schools demanding that they stop allowing student-led prayers at athletic events. You know, this is very powerful because the schools, the government-run schools, get very protective of their money, which is actually our money, which they're already misusing. And, oh, we don't want to have to spend money on lawyers.
No, there's a black hole.
Yep. The letter to the Trussville City Schools, the Foundation for Moral Law, says the FFRF has misinterpreted the First Amendment and the case law on the issue and observes that while the FFRF sends out hundreds of letters demanding that various religious practices cease, they often fail to follow through with legal action if local officials refuse to cave in to their demands. Fear. Isn't that one of the weapons that Satan uses? Fear, discourage. Yeah, that's one of them. Yeah, confusion, fear, discourage. Every year, the FFRF sends out numerous letters to school boards, city councils, county commissioners, and other government agencies demanding that they cease allowing or sponsoring various religious activities. Mrs. Moore wrote in a letter to Trussville City Schools, they often cite court cases to support their position, giving these cases a simplistic interpretation and stating their conclusions over broadly. Their strategy is to intimidate government officials with the threat of lawsuits in the hope that these officials will cave into their demand. And sometimes that works. I've seen it work in my local school district. They used to say a prayer before school board meetings. Don't do it now.
Really?
Yep.
Westerville schools?
Yep. Unless it's a Muslim prayer. And
yeah,
I'd heard
amazing?
I heard through the grapevine that they do have rooms that they allow. I don't even want to go there. I don't want to go there. That's going to confuse the issue a little bit. But
yeah, we don't want that left tactic there.
Foundation for Moral Law President Kayla Moore said officials should realize that these threatening letters say only what the FFRF wishes the Constitution said, not what it actually says. She's married to a constitutional lawyer, by the way. Mm-hmm. Soon to be senator. Oh, Lord, I hope soon to be senator. The Foundation for Moral Law is willing to talk with school officials and school attorneys directly, analyze their policies, and determine what, if anything, needs to be done to ensure compliance with the Constitution. Please feel free to contact us if we can be of help. That's what we're formed to do, she says to the school. So if you're looking for a good reason to take a knee at a football game, well, again, folks, if we don't show up, we can't possibly win. If you don't try, and I know it's discouraging. That's what concerns me about this Hillary Clinton thing. Sean Hannity and folks like him are getting us all worked up. And what happens when Hillary doesn't go to jail? And when excuses are made? And what happens, like in the case of Planned Parenthood, when the people that are actually trying to do something end up in jail or spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on lawyers? Yet, what choice do you have? How much is your life? No. How much is your children's life? Your friend's life? Grandchildren. How much are those worth? This is the time to stand up, and this is the time to do something. In the next hour, we're going to give you, I think, a good reason that is, at the very least, part of the answer to the problem. It has to be in there. If not the answer itself, it's at least a good part of it. I hope you stay tuned for our second hour. This is B.J. Edwards along with Mr. Anderson. I appreciate Larry giving us permission this morning to use that information. And I appreciate all you listeners out there that encourage us. We're in a war for the soul of this nation, folks. And we got to show up for the battle.
Keeping you informed. This is Last Call with B.J. Edwards.
Our nation is at risk. We would like you to get on board with Operation Save Us. Who are we trying to save? We are trying to save the natural family. One man, one woman, biological and or adopted children. Our basis of our society was built on the formation of families. One man, one woman. If we do not stand and defend the natural families, will our society survive? We need urgent action today. Operation Save Us equals fathers, mothers, children, which equals communities, which equals nations. Operation Save Us.
And we're back.
Mr. Anderson just handed me a article, and I'll get to the theme of hour number 2, which is kind of a follow-up about the prayer. Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker came forward and gave good advice to the NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell. He claimed that the NFL players should stand during the anthem in order to condemn domestic violence.
Yes.
Watergate, one more reason why these pointless protests should come to an end. According to the Lutchman report, he addressed Roger Goodell by saying, "It is time for players to the NFL to stop protests during the anthem and move on from what has been a divisive political sideshow." Furthermore, he explained that this month, October, is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and it turns out that players are one of the most effective domestic abusers in the country. However, he didn't define how they should address the issue other than standing during the anthem. The issue of domestic violence has been a controversial topic since the league's handling of the Ray Rice assault in 2014. It is reported that exactly 44 NFL players were charged or accused of sexual or physical assault. And this year, already 5 players have been charged with domestic violence-related offenses. Governor Walker concluded by saying, "Now would be especially an opportune time to strongly condemn domestic violence and lead the charge in supporting safe families across America. The actions and statements that is seen these days should help with the end of these pointless protests. It is time for the NFL players to wake up and stop this madness that ruined the sport and offended many people." You know, Wisconsin has Green Bay, and I know the Green Bay quarterback would not agree with the governor of Wisconsin, who, by the way, is injured now. What a shame. Not the governor, the quarterback. We all live in America, don't we? Well, some of our callers, some of our listeners don't live in America, but it still does matter to you. Like its 21st century counterpart, America, Rome was the indestructible nation of nations. Its armies ruled the world, and it was the sole superpower of its time. Yet, in less than 500 years, as its families eroded and migrated, it is now found in a dump heap of former nation states. How could it have gone from superpower to the point of self-destruction, an historical blink of the eye? The Roman Empire began with Octavian, Julius Caesar's heir and grandnephew, when he became the first emperor. I think that was around 27 BC. And the empire fell on September 4th, 476, after the last Roman emperor was deposed by Odoacer. So that means the Roman Empire lasted 503 years, 7 months, and 19 days.
That's a loud sigh.
Yeah, yeah.
Where to next, huh?
I had a link. Okay. But in our experience, wait a minute, where did that come from? My printer screwed up this morning. So.
It's hard to find a good scribe these days.
Yeah. All right, first of all, make no mistake about it. History is the story of the family. Whether it be West Africa, Mesopotamia, Greece, or Rome, or America today, the story is always the same. Strong families make strong people, and strong people make stable tribes, capable villages, and forceful nation states. What makes some nations fail while others flourish? The fate of a nation ultimately rests in the hands of the family institution it is composed of and how well they are maintained within that particular community. So what makes a family strong, and what about the environment and technological advances? Politicians, religious and community leaders? What about geography or social status, or poverty, or other internal pressures that are applied to the family? First of all, you have to start with the basics, and that's the natural family, which occurs naturally. That is one man, one woman, and their biological children. Yes, we're not forgetting about adoption, which as time happens with a man as well as animals. You might see a baby deer that has lost its parents and has been adopted by another deer. And there are internal factors within the family that affect the success of the failure as well. Yes, of course, especially when it comes to the structure and authority within the family institution. These are factors to this day that are of the utmost importance. Civilizations cannot exist without leadership and order, rules, laws, if you will. What happens when there's no leadership and or rules that are followed? It's not very pretty. And it's called anarchy. Think about the importance of the family, about the structure and the order. Think about that. And where we would be as a nation. We wouldn't be as a nation. We'd be scattered all over the countryside. Everyone's right in their own eyes. Survival of the fittest. Children. Mankind learned about structure and leadership where? That's right. In the family environment. In the households. They must see an order, and that order must remain consistent. Not just in their or other contemporary areas, excuse me, contemporary households, but in the marketplace of ideas. And this must be consistent historically. It must maintain. The order and structure cannot change. It has to remain the same. Otherwise, if you make one exception, the rules become the exception, right? Well, we know that, don't we? If leadership changes throughout the centuries, then I believe we are laying the groundwork for the aforementioned anarchy. Man inherently needs leadership. And by the way, they need a father, blue, and a mother, pink, as well. One male and one female, by the way. The leaderships need to be consistent and well-defined in the family, which transposes into the world. Again, think about the critical importance of that. And if you read history at all, and I've been doing a lot of reading about history and about social and families, if you want to destroy a nation, weaken the family. Take the structure away from it. You, as a government, become the structure. Yeah, that helps. And you tell the family what to do. So that does beg the question, what should a family look like? Didn't past leaders have many wives and concubines? Biblically, Solomon had, what, how many wives? 500? Maybe 1,000 concubines?
Too many for Christmas list.
Yeah. Solomon and other influential leaders, as well as other families. Many of today's leaders may not have multiple wives, but they seem to get involved in extramarital affairs just the same. Other nation leaders treat their wife as if she were property with less than human status. Historically, in other families, children were expected to work at a very young age, while females were often betrothed by their fathers to complete strangers. And if a child misbehaved and showed disrespect to the parents, the punishment could be as severe as loss of life. That's some pretty strong authority there, Mr. Anderson.
Yes, it is. You bring out the village, they all participate.
In America during the Civil War era, this would apply to some other areas, nations as well, fathers who came from Africa were often separated from their wives, and parents were often separated from their children and other family members. What kind of impact has this had on our community, internally and externally? How about the pill, the magic pill? No-fault divorces, and today's modern family. What effect have they had on the household and in turn upon this great nation? So, is there a realistic blueprint for the ideal family? To that question, I would say the natural answer is absolutely. As we are starting to see in America today, although these issues we have just discussed and many more do have impact on society, it is how the natural family reacts to them that in large part eventually determines the ultimate outcome of the surrounding community and eventually the state. As individuals, we have to make decisions about our life based upon our heredity and environment. And so it goes with the family and its environment. By the way, if you'd like to call in, 614-423-4220. Love to hear from you. I know you're all probably spellbound by what I'm saying. So, wake up.
Wake up, roll over, get out of bed.
Yeah. There is an old saying that starts with, as goes the family, and ends, so goes the nation. In too many cases, because of the failure of the family, nations have indeed ended, especially when it came to competing with other nation states with stronger families. Now, I know that there's a recent thought process exposed by a former female presidential candidate who believed that it actually takes a community to raise a child. And, of course, the extension of that would be the government taking care of the children from cradle to grave. Does any of this sound or look familiar? But please, make no mistake about it. If done right, it requires the natural family. You're not going to do it any other way. There's no substitution. Again, we're talking about one father, blue, one mother, pink, in a lifelong monogamous relationship with their biological and or adopted children. It does not take a community to raise a child. It takes a family.
With a Bible.
And that family needs to be as natural as possible. And Mr. Anderson brings up a great point. You have to set rules that are, in essence, eternal. They have to remain the same. The structure in the family needs to remain the same. And that structure is vertical, by the way. It is one man, one woman, and their children. A vertical relationship. The father has the authority in the family. And yes, he does have influence from his wife. And I've said before, if I had a choice between authority and influence, I'll take influence. That way I have less responsibility, right?
That's true.
It was my wife that did it. Remember Adam? Huh? Eve did it. Eve did it. I didn't do it. Eve did it.
Pass the buck.
And God says, well, who had authority? Eve did it. Eve did it.
Well, why didn't you say something?
And if you want to set up some objective standards, a good place, like Mr. Anderson mentioned, was the Bible. It's a great place to start. The Bible. There's a lot of great truths in there. A lot of great truths.
And it also hands you the authority. You say, well, that's not me. I didn't say that.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
God handed that to me to hand to you.
Very true, Mr. Anderson. When we come back from break, there was a very interesting video that I watched this week from Ben Shapiro. We're going to share that with you.
Oh, that's a good one.
And we're going to ask you some questions after that. So there is a test. B.G. Edwards along with Mr. Anderson, your last call. WTVO Radio and WNFFradio.com.
Please tell me, pretty mama, honey, where'd you stay last night? come home.
Faith, discussion, and so much more. Last Call with BJ Edwards on WTVOradio.com.
Now the door's so far, girl. You get my hand on board. And these other little women.
Call-in number is 614-423-4220.
Ben Shapiro has a way with words. In a recent video, he helps to explain gender roles in a down-to-earth manner. There are natural roles that are different for men, women, and children. If we're at a point in America where fathers have that birds and bees conversation with their children, and they're having that with their son, and they say to their son, now son, raping a woman is wrong. If that's the part of the father, the birds and the bees conversation, we got ourselves some real problems. And Ben will get into that. There needs to be structure in the family, and there needs to be order. There must be defined roles, and there must exist a hierarchy. If we find ourselves in a society where children are not listen to their parental authority, they will not in turn accept a societal one. That being the case, the nation will be well on its way to anarchy and certain demise. An ancient king once talked about a generation who curse their father and do not bless their mothers, are pure in their own eyes and yet not cleansed from their filth. Those whose eyes are ever so haughty, whose glances are so disdainful, those whose teeth are like swords, and whose jaws are set with knives, to devour the poor from the earth and the needy from among mankind. Have you taken time to listen to today's youth? Or are you likened unto them and listen not? They are our future leaders. And what will come of their works in our lives? Remember, these children have been taught in government-run schools that life has no meaning. The morals are relative. Man is the measure of all things, and the state is their daddy. That ought to scare the bejesus out of you, brothers and sisters. That alone. 12 years of that. And you paid for it. And you helped them. You did their homework for them. You made sure they were following the school's design. Wow. But once again, we learn that as goes the family, so goes the nation. If we let our children bring themselves up or try to be their friends or equals, we will soon find that we're our own worst enemy. I had a friend that I overheard his daughter saying his first name. Not dad, but his first name. And that daughter needed to be reminded that children have a spatial relationship in a mother and father's life. And they'll never stop being their mother and father. They can be BJ or Mr. Anderson to other folks. But their mom, grandmom, grandfather in the family. And it needs to stay that way. But then that's part of that friendly, call me by my first name, right? We have the hope that those who have taken the time to read our plea, to listen to our plea today, will stop and think about what it is we are doing, exactly how far we have come as a nation. Rome and other great nations failed the family, and as a result are no longer the vibrant nations they once were. The end of their time. The America of today, the land of the home, the free and the brave, the land of opportunity. Unless you're white, over 50, Christian. Yeah. Then that changes. Oh, I hear you others out there. I hear, oh, discrimination. Quit picking that sore. Quit picking it. So I want to ask you to take time to listen to the wisdom of Ben in the following short video, audio actually for you, and understand how far along the road to perdition we have traveled as a nation and how close we are to Rome. We're a lot closer than many of us can see or feel. We're a heartbeat away from it, folks. We hope this information will encourage you to help us defend the concept of the natural family. That's what this is all about. It's not where we are, but where we are headed from here. We encourage you to take the time to go over our offerings on our website, www.naturalfamilyfoundation.org. Natural Family Foundation, 3 words, Natural Family Foundation. The natural family is the foundation of any good society. Naturalfamilyfoundation.org. Go over our information. Friend us on Facebook, The Natural Family Foundation. We can't do it alone, and we need you to help us out. And if not now, when? And if not you, who? Mr. Anderson, would you play
We'll bring our
Ben Shapiro for us?
All righty.
Do you think that women who voted for Hillary, women who have strongly supported the feminist movement and supported the left, are feeling disenfranchised given the current climate of sexual brutality and oppression brought to light in Hollywood recently?
So I think that people have a willingness to blind themselves to facts that they don't want to see. And so what I've seen a lot is people saying, well, the problem of sexual harassment isn't unique to Hollywood and has nothing to do with our culture regarding sex, a leftist culture regarding sex. No, it has to do generally with men. Right? It has to do generally with American society. It has to do generally with power relationships. It's funny how everybody is willing to generalize as soon as their ox is gored. Right? As soon as the left sees, wait, our culture, our feminist culture that we said that we were going to promulgate and was going to protect women hasn't protected women, nearly at all. Then all of a sudden it turns into, well, it's not us that sin, it's men that sin. Right? And so I've been getting a lot of this online in the last couple of days. It's you men who haven't stood up. And I keep saying, like, what do you want me to do? And I'll do it. Really, what do you want me to do? Like, if you show me a rapist like Harvey Weinstein allegedly is, then I will say, send him to jail or castrate him, right? Like, this is not difficult. But if you just say to me, you don't acknowledge the rape culture, again, I need you to define that, and I need you to explain to me what I did. Like, really? I didn't do anything. And I think the vast majority of people in this room didn't do anything. And if they did do something, then maybe people should report it to the police, because that seems to me the best way to root out evil is to actually have law enforcement get involved. So the left is, so the question of what the left is doing about this, do they feel disenfranchised? No, I think they're just going to blame the same people they always blame because we're all in our own little bubbles. Should they feel disenfranchised? 100%. Because in a society that treats sex as transactional, in a society that basically reduces sex to any sort, just a physical transaction that is based solely on consent, it makes it very difficult to explain why it is that the casting couch in Hollywood is bad per se. Right? There's actually, like, feminist theory says that it's bad because of power imbalances, but the sort of libertarian culture of the left suggests that power imbalance doesn't have anything to do with it. If I feel like trading my body for a part in a movie, well, that's my business. And if you say differently, then you're slut-shaming me. Right? So that's, well, you can't really have it both ways. Either it's bad or it's not bad. And if we are going to fight sexual harassment and sexual assault, it seems to me that we have to do a couple of things. One, we have to reinvest sex with value beyond just a physical transaction. It's not just two people who are getting each other's rocks off. It actually means something beyond that. There's a relationship that's attached to it. And beyond that, I think that we need to re-inculcate in men themselves, not just the teach men not to rape routine. Like, again, it's such a weird concept. Like, when I was 11, my dad didn't sit me down and say, son, don't rape people. Like, if you have to teach your child that, my guess is that you got a bigger problem than that on your hands. What my dad taught me was to be a gentleman and to treat women with respect. And that has to do with being a gentleman and recognizing differences in sex roles. Because one of the things that's happened is that traditional masculinity, the idea that it is a man's job to protect women, this is one of our jobs as human beings, as men, to protect women, the feminist movement doesn't like that. Well, then you can't blame us for not protecting women if you don't want us to protect women. Like, I want to protect women. I think men should protect women. I think one of the reasons God put man on earth is to protect women. Okay, well, then it is incumbent on me to protect women. But if you're telling me that I can't even open a door for a woman because this is somehow an offense to her honor, and that if I say that it's man's job to protect women, that this is somehow reinforcing gender stereotypes, then don't come whining to me when bad stuff happens. Because the answer to bad behavior is good behavior. The answer to vice is virtue. The answer to vice isn't just yelling and hashtagging crap.
Wow. Good stuff. Yeah, Ben has a way with words. By the way, we'll have a link for that Ben Shapiro as soon as our administrator posts this travel advice article that I sent on our website. The link for that is on there. And again, that's naturalfamilyfoundation.org. It'll probably be up there after the show today. As I'm listening to that tape, there's a lot of things going through my mind. Number one, it does reinforce the importance of the natural family. It's just obvious that if we don't have that, well, look what's happened to America today. Look at our children. We brought them up wanting to be their friends, their buddies, not to offend them, not to spank them, not to scold them. Oh, we don't want to hurt their feelings because, gosh, when they grow up, they may not be able to go. Where do children learn to be good? Where do they learn to be bad? School. When? Turn your mic on. And Mr. Anderson, would you repeat that? When do children learn to be good and when children learn to be bad?
At school.
At school. And you're an ex-teacher, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to get you on record with both those.
Oh, my colleagues will come now.
When should they learn to be good and what's bad? Where should they pick that up from? Just bring them up and then throw them out into society and let the public schools teach them? Or let the news media teach them? Or better yet, let the entertainment or the video games teach them? Yeah, there you go. Yeah, they're going to be real good kids. Real good kids. Where do they learn to respect authority? And yeah, obey authority.
Pretty much at home.
Mm-hmm. In the family structure. And by the way, the family structure is not just limited to the mother and the father. There are grandparents as well. And there are extended family members. And those are educational experiences. When I had a child, it was the first time for me. So I didn't have an instruction manual.
I didn't either.
But there were people around that knew what to do and how to do it right.
Actually, we had one. We just didn't know about it yet.
True. True.
It was there on the collecting dust on the shelf.
What think about the minority communities. Where do they learn the difference between right and wrong? In a lot of cases, the fathers aren't even there. They've deposited a sperm and they've left the building. Some to never return again. Where do those children learn right and wrong? You're thinking right. In the streets. In the mean streets, sometimes. Oftentimes. All the time. We can't keep shooting the results of our infidelity to the family. We can't keep imprisoning them. We can't keep painting over them or doing studies. Oh, how helpful. Studies, by the way, like books, are done by people. And people have templates. Could be liberal templates, could be Muslim templates, could be progressive templates, could be Christian templates. Could be pornographic templates.
Ew.
Homosexual templates. A lot of different templates. So you're going in to find what you can find. When we come back, I'm gonna read from an article that Flo Nation, boy, she is doing a great job for us. She's such a blessing to us. Wrote, and going to talk a little bit about the war we're in. B.J. Edwards along with Mr. Anderson. Your last call. WTVOradio.com and WNFFradio.com.
Getting good at that. New call letters.
Practice makes perfect.
Last Call with BJ Edwards. Real talk about real life on WTVOradio.com.
I gotta acknowledge it's good to see Biker Bill here on the chat.
Oh, Bill, brother.
Biker Bill and Don Davidson are also here.
Our chat is back and you're back.
And they're back and they're happy.
Neat.
Hopefully more people will discover that.
It was worth the investment.
If they don't want to call, they can at least.
Are they saying anything, or are they just letting me do all the talking again? Tell them I'm getting tired of it. I need some comments.
Well, okay, Biker Bill, he asked a good question here. I think it's a good question.
Go.
He says, if my wife won't do what I tell her, am I still on the hook? Or have the responsibility of shepherding her?
Is that Adam? Is that Adam? Huh?
I think that's back about when you were talking about even.
It's. I had a talk with a friend the other day, and she had a very difficult marriage, and it was abusive, and she stuck it out. Now, it doesn't always happen that way, but she stuck it out, and she had faith that it would work out. And sometimes it takes that. Again, I'm not saying that they're all going to work out that way, but part of our problems, a big part of our problems is that I mentioned the pill. And premarital sex, and now living with somebody before you get married to them. By the way, if you're living with somebody, you've already got one foot out the door, because you've already made a commitment that you're not going to make a commitment. You understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
So if you're doing that, and you're having premarital sex, and you're going to test drive 50 or 60 cars before you finally decide on one, and then when you have the one you decided on, and 4 years later, the head starts tapping, and you go, well, geez, I'm going to have to, or the fan starts clinking, I'm going to have to trade it off on a new model. We need to understand that marriage is a lifetime commitment. And then we can talk about monogamy. Ooh, that's tough. That's tough.
I can springboard there to Don's comment. He says the natural family was a working entity when there was only the father, husband, worked and provided for the family. The mother, the wife, gave guidance to the children. He says then there's a method to return to that if people will listen.
And one of the positives for the government running everything is that if you have both parents working, they're not spending time with the children. So the children are going to spend time with somebody, okay? They're going to spend time with somebody.
That's true.
Either on a phone or a TV or children's services who comes to pick them up and take them away because you haven't spent any time with them. It's really treacherous. So yeah, you want to do whatever you can to solidify that family structure, being the man working and the mother in the home. And I can remember a good friend of mine saying that he could remember mom saying, well, you wait till your father gets home. Now that's a family. Okay, that's a family. Because she said, wait till the authority arrives at the door. And by the way, once you go out back and pick up the switch that you want him to use. Huh?
That's how I was raised.
Yeah.
Wait till your dad gets home. Go to your room. Your dad will take care of this.
But now we're more diverse. We're more diverse. So anybody coming home in the door can. Well, no, we're not even going to discipline you. We're just going to talk with you and hope that things work out. And if they don't, we'll talk with you again. And if it doesn't, then we got drugs for you. We can take care of this problem. And if you don't like it, you can find some drugs and you can end it all. Yeah, why not? Life has no meaning, right? Take your own life or somebody else's. Now, we posed a question last week or the week before about the Las Vegas shooter. I mean, he's brought up in a society that says life has no meaning. We evolved primordial sludge, 2 frogs hopped out of the water, kissed, and gave us a prince, and kissed again, gave us a princess, and boom, we were off and running. The original Adam and Eve. But it didn't mean anything. Again, primordial sludge, that's all you came from. There is no afterlife. There's no purpose in life. Just get everything you can out of life. Well, our fella in Las Vegas got everything out of life, but he was missing. He was missing something. In his case, I think it was a lot to do with the family, with his father, which he never had. So what's wrong with he or the 2 gentlemen, the 2 young kids in Colorado, or a guy that wants to put a bomb in front of a building in Oklahoma? What value to life? There is no structure. You're your own authority. Do you understand how everything is coming together here? And what we're getting, the soup that we've been mixing has got a very bitter taste to it. And you can run all the government studies you want, but I can tell you right now, it's all going to circle back to one main thing, and that's the family. It may not be the answer, but I can tell you right now, it is definitely a big part of the answer. And they learned that in Rome. I want to read that article, a little bit of the article. I don't want to read all of it because it'll ruin it. You won't want to read Flo's whole article.
You won't go to the website and see it.
But in her article, Flo Nation, and we'll have this up next week on our website. Let's take a look at history in Rome. Once upon a time, it was the greatest nation in the world. Boy, that sounds familiar, doesn't it? Powerful, its people lived in abundance. Its borders were endless. Then, the fall. History shows that the strength of any nation depends on the strength of the families. You know, families are little units that create power. Got a caller coming in. They're little units that create power. You've got the man, the woman, then they have children, and those children are doing other things. Caller, can you hang in there with us while I yak?
Yep.
All right,
yep.
Appreciate that. They have children, and then those children have children, and they have little power units. And then all these power units starting collecting, and pretty soon you've got 10 power units, families, and then you've got 100, and then you've got 1,000 power units. Now you're starting to talk about influence. And there are people that take a look at those little power units that have become big power units and aren't part of it, or maybe they are part of it, and say, you know what, I want more power, and here it is. How do I get that? So maybe it's the early nomads that were roaming around the countryside, because when you eat like cattle, when you eat the grass, you're going to have to go to another field. Well, hey, wait a minute, you can replenish that. So I'm the person that wants the power. In order for me to replenish this, you have to give me some of that power. You have to give me your children. You have to give me your time. You have to give me your attention. And then we have kings, and then we have dictators. So it's all interesting how this all comes back. Caller, your first name, please, and how can we help you today?
I am Biker Bill, the one and only.
Hi, Biker. Oh, my goodness, it's great to hear from you, brother.
Hey, it's good to hear from you. I just want to call and congratulate you on the new whole format here. It's like much better, much more user-friendly, looks smoother, looks more professional. You guys are coming up in the world.
Well, what can I say? What can I say? It's hard to hold all that goodness back, right?
I know. It's really hard for you, I know.
I'm glad you noticed. I try to hold it down, Bill. I try to hold it down.
I just let it shine. There's not a lot I can do about it,
I hear you. I hear you. We appreciate the compliment. Anything else on your mind?
I just haven't called in forever, and I wanted to call, say hi, and tell you I appreciate you guys and everything you're doing, and hope to do more to help you. And anything I can do, I'm at your service, sir. You have my number, although it hasn't rang in quite a long time.
Well, I'll take care of that this week. and you'll regret that. You'll regret 2 things. Number 1, reminding me that I have the number, and number 2, saying anything that I want you to do, you'll do. So I'll be calling.
No, I won't. I won't. You know me. I'm down for trouble.
I got you, brother.
He's got a way of keeping people busy.
I got you, brother. Thanks again, man. Go ahead.
All right. No, that's it. That's basically it.
All right, brother. God bless you, and we love you. We love you.
God bless you, and I love you more.
All right. Thanks, man.
All right.
Bye.
All righty. History shows that the strength of any nation depends on the strength of families. Family is a rock-solid foundation on which a country's superstructure is erected. So the family begins to falter, so does the nation. Rome in its heyday was affluent and had the mightiest army on earth, just like America today. Back then, when people talked about Rome failing, they were scorned and scoffed at. Oh, how that sounds familiar. When Seneca, the famous Roman, warned that Rome would fall, even telling people why it would fall, the people scoffed and ignored his warnings. In the words of Seneca, one of the foundational reasons Rome would fall was the fact that, and this is really good, this is from a Roman, 1st century AD, a Roman. The foundation, the reason the Romans would fall was the fact that they divorce in order to remarry. They marry in order to divorce. Seneca warned that the family breakdown would destroy the Roman Empire.
Wow, interesting.
Mm-hmm. History. Those that forget history are destined to repeat it.
And now we have that, no fault divorce thing?
Yep.
Thank you, Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, that's right. What we need is more conservatives, right? I'll read a little bit more from it. Again, this is from Flow Nation, and she is one of our newest writers, and we really appreciate her. Appreciate her.
And she does good research.
Oh, man. She does. I've got to call her up and ask her where she got all this information. Largely forgotten today is the fact that the home is the basic foundation of any society. This is from Modern Romans, which is evidently a booklet, Ambassador College. It lays the first groundwork for learning individual character, values, goals, hadn't talked about that, but that is important, morality, all about that, self-control, there's a goodie, and loyalty. Hadn't really thought of it in those terms, Mr. Anderson. The early Romans basically understood this, and it was a force that helped Rome grow in power and structure. In the book Rome, Its Rise and Fall, the author Philip Van Nys Myers notes, first at the bottom, as it were, of Roman society and forming its ultimate unit was the family. The most important feature of the element of the family was the authority of the father. Send links to our show today to some of your feminist friends. And be sure to give them our call-in number. I'd love to hear from them.
And our website.
614-423-4220. You can't debate history, can you? We see that everything happening here in our nation has happened before.
It's sort of like truth, isn't it? It is what it is.
Right. I'm going to summarize what we've been talking about today, but the more that I read about the family, its history, its importance, my goodness. I praise God for giving me the vision. I really do. It's incredible how much I've learned.
Me too. I'm on board.
Hi, Poppy. Spirit War 2. Hi, Poppy. B.J. Edwards Long, Mr. Anderson, your last call.
This is for Larry.
Okay.
Last Call with B.J. Edwards. Real talk about real life on WTVOradio.com.
And we are back.
Remember when Larry said, "Who are you going to call?" Everybody.
Duh. Who are you going to call? Ghostbusters.
Yeah, I mean, you know.
I haven't been listening to the show, have I?
What judge will bring this to the court? Who are you going to call?
I'm sorry, Mr. Anderson, I wasn't listening.
We're trying to prosecute these criminals, and anyway.
Yeah. Oh boy.
We needed to recap that anyway. It's an important thought.
Yep.
Who are you going to call?
Yep.
All right. You want me to play this other thing?
Yeah. The word you call a weapon is a sound that will divide, and the war goes on within your heart till the family take a side and put to death your pride. You speak of fear and judgment. Do you fear the one who knows? Your freedom's restoration is the purpose you oppose. And the consequences of actions is a law that all men face. The rising sun has brought the human race. That's portion of words to the song Welcome to the War by Carrie Livgren. Thank you, Joseph, for that. That's good advice. We are in a battle for the soul. The soul of our nation and the soul of those individuals, our sons, our daughters, our friends, our associates. Have you got it ready, Mr. Anderson?
I have this special clip here.
We'd love to hear this. This is good stuff.
Hey, my name is Pam Gaudry. I am a physician, and I am the wife of a deceased Navy captain, and not who died in the line of duty. And he gave 20 years of his life to the Navy. I just did the most uncourageous thing in my life today.
Uncourageous.
And I'm sharing it. And I hope that somehow it gets to people all around, and even the president. So I was on a flight from Philadelphia to Atlanta today, and we had a deceased soldier who was also accompanied by his best friend, a man in uniform. And the captain came on and asked if we would all remain seated while the soldier got off the plane first, and while the honor guard took the deceased soldier out of the plane, which was great. I had an idea. It was just one of those spontaneous ideas that it would be so neat when this soldier stood up, and while the honor guard was going on, taking him off, that we should sing the national anthem. And so I went around to each seat and I asked if people felt comfortable doing it, if they would join me. And most people were thrilled out of their minds, and several women cried and said, you know, that's so beautiful. And I had so many people come up to me and say, you know, we should make a habit of this, and this would be great. And, you know, it's a great honor to the boys' parents, and wife, and perhaps children. Anyway, I went to every seat, and some people said fine, and others didn't want to do it, which was fine. I just said whatever you feel comfortable doing. And after I sat back down, it was apparent that the plane was starting to descend, and the chief flight attendant came up to my seat, and she kneeled down and she said, it is against company policy to do what you're doing. And I said,
which it wasn't, by the way.
National anthem, and there's a soldier on board. And she said, yes, you cannot sing the national anthem. It is against
your attention, please.
Company policy. And
please maintain control of your bags at all times and report any unattended baggage.
I said, well, I just told every single person on this plane that we were going to do it. Are you going to tell them not to? Because I'm not going around and telling them not to sing. But they did make an announcement that we were to stay quietly in our seats and be very quiet. And she did not tell the rest of the plane that this singing the national anthem for this soldier was against company policy. She told me that several of the people on the plane were from other countries and that they were uncomfortable with us singing the national anthem. So the soldier got up, they whisked him out very quickly, which I assumed would happen when word got out to the flight crew that we were going to do this. And we all sat in silence as the honor guard took the soldier off the plane. I was a little scared that I would be taken away by, I didn't know what would happen to me if I started singing, but I'm humiliated by my lack of courage to sing the national anthem in my own country on American soil with a deceased soldier on the plane. I wish I could have been an example for my children. I'm glad my husband, my former husband, is deceased, because he would have been profoundly disappointed in me. And I can tell you that having been in Vietnam and saved a lot of people's lives there, he would have been horribly disappointed. So I just wanted people to know that this happened. Obviously, I'm still in the airport and disheveled because I've been flying all day, and emotional because this happened. Many people on the plane were upset, and they said, all we can do is pray. All we can do is pray that this kind of thing doesn't continue to happen. I wish I had had more courage to start singing. It's too late now. I know a lot of people were upset that it didn't happen, and I guess some people are happy. So hopefully this will get shared around the country, and people will know that it is the policy of Delta not be able to sing the national anthem on one of their planes. I guess that's all I got to say. Y'all have a great rest of the weekend.
There's a couple things that I want you to get out of this. First of all, I very much appreciate the lady trying to do what she tried to do.
She showed courage in acknowledging her lack of courage.
Well, but here's what I would like to think I would have done. Regardless of what they said, I'd like to think that I would have stood up, put my hand over my heart, and started singing the national anthem. And to have the rest of that, I know the lady would have stood up. And if she stood up, then the rest of the plane probably would have stood up as well and done the same thing. I'd like to think that I would have done that. I heard pray, which is important, but why would God reward that if you don't stand up and do the right thing? If you pray, you should pray, Lord, let me stand up and do the right thing the next time this comes up. Let me have the courage. And I can guarantee you the next time this comes up, it won't be as easy. It won't be as easy, because God's going to test you to see if you really meant what you said. That's some of the things I've got out of it. And I know she was upset. And I like to believe that her husband was with her, that he would have stood up and done what it is that should have been done on that flight.
Take the lead.
Yep. For those of you out there that aren't restricted and have access to a pen and paper, you want to have those weapons around, you know, if you're dangerous. I want you to draw a circle. Doesn't make any difference how big it is. Put NF, natural family, in the middle of it. And then I want you to, around that circle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 3 on one side and 3 on the other. Write down business, or business, B-I-D-N-E-S-S. Government, business, government. Education on one side. And church, media, and entertainment on the other side. So it should be circled by business, government, education, church, media, entertainment. I want you to draw a line from the circle to each of those areas: business, government, education, church, media, and entertainment. Draw a line. And above that, I want you to put a question mark. And then think about this. You need to draw an arrow. And where are you thinking the arrow should come from, and where do you think the arrow should go to? I'm going to leave that up to you. But once you get that done, However you've drawn those arrows, you can draw them for each one, whatever you want to, what way you want to do. I want you to think about what you're saying about the natural family and what we're talking about, the areas of influence. And while you're thinking about that, I want to kind of review where we come from today. History, and by the way, history books, as I mentioned before, are found in the non-fiction section of libraries, but it's worth noting again that these objective recordings of our past are penned by men and women with certain worldviews, and it is safe to say that they are often, well, biased. And bits and pieces of history may get thrown out that are important. History is the story of families, and the stronger the families, the better the narrative. The strongest families are those that occur naturally, consisting of one man and one woman in a lifelong monogamous committed relationship with their children, biological and or adopted. And yes, there is always exceptions to the rule, but that's what they are, just exceptions. Children instinctively have a need for both their birth mother and father. Birth mother and father, one pink and one blue. You know what I mean by one pink and one blue out there, don't you? If you're big enough and old enough to have a pencil, then you understand what that means. When unnatural entities are entered into the family, then it automatically weakens the institution, the bonds, and adversely affects every member of the family. Remember what Flo wrote? Remember what we've been talking about? It's like oil and water. They just don't mix. Strong families occur instinctively without the help or need of government nor social workers. When left alone, families will form and exist on their own naturally. How did they get from the original Adam and Eve, or prince and princess, or from the aliens that came down and altered the... Anyway, they do exist on their own. As goes the family, so goes the church. And as goes the church, so goes the nation. But as well, as goes the family, so goes the government, so goes business, so goes the media, and so goes entertainment, and so goes education. And this should be a one-way street from the family to the areas of influence in our society. When these areas of influence the family will not prevail, and the problems will begin. Mm-hmm. These areas serve themselves and not the family. And I had you draw the circle before because I want you to keep that circle. And you can draw another one if you want to make it clearer. But keep that circle handy. Keep it around as a reminder of today's show. And I'd encourage you to share today's show. I told you it was going to be a classic, and it is a classic. To share this show with others. Because when you share this, people ask me, well, what do I do? How do I help the natural family? You can share this show we had today, especially the last half of it, about the natural family. You have to know the importance of the natural family. You have to. It's obvious. Please. I should look into the camera when I talk, shouldn't I? Please. Please. I get waylaid. I get thinking about other things. But the importance of the natural family. Pray about it. Ask God to speak to you. Go out and look at what's happening in society. Find out about the families of those people that you're curious about. In today's 21st century America, it's difficult to find a natural family. 95% of the families out there are not natural. And it's the concept that we're pushing. I didn't come from a natural family. I've been divorced. Bingo, 50%, that's right out the door. So now we're down to 50% can only be natural families. And then you've got the pornography, and you've got everything else that deals in there, and the affairs. The natural family is the key, folks. The concept of it is what we need to be shooting for. We need to protect. Hey, appreciate you listening today. This has been B.J. Edwards. We hope you have a great weekend. And go Buckeyes, huh? I know, Mr. Anderson. You don't agree with that?
Not this week.
Again, B.J. Edwards along with Mr. Anderson. Have a great weekend. And join us next week.
For Last Call.
Join us next week on WTVOradio.com for Last Call with B.J. Edwards.
I need to... I think I minimized that one. And stop streaming.